Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today for our live webinar on how to increase profits with advanced pricing. I'm Matt with PriceFX, the global leader in SaaS pricing software, offering a comprehensive suite of solutions that are fast to implement, flexible to configure and customize, and friendly to learn and use. PriceFX delivers a complete price optimization and management platform on native cloud architecture, providing industry-leading time to value and total cost of ownership advantages to the customer. Today's presentation will be delivered jointly with our valued partner, Star Cooperation. Star Cooperation supports companies of all sizes and industries in efficiently planning, designing, and successfully implementing projects. With its consulting division, Star Cooperation focuses especially on sales, after-sales, pricing, and processes. With global locations and an international project experience in over 40 markets, Star Cooperation provides you with innovative ideas and well-thought-out solutions exactly tailored to your needs. So with that, I'd like to get to the exciting part and pass it over to our speakers to present a little bit about themselves before we hop into the presentation itself. So Patrick, if you would like to get things started, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, so Matt, thank you very much for the introduction. So just to give all the participants here today a bit of background who is running the webinar today. So we just do one or two sentences as an introduction. So I will start with myself. My name is Patrick Flüger. I'm with Star Corporation for 5 years now, and I mainly focus on international strategy and pricing projects in sales and after sales in several different sectors. And I'm really looking forward to the webinar today.
Okay, so thank you, Patrick. So to my person, my name is Verena, and I'm also working here at Star Corporation for almost 5 years now as a senior consultant, and I'm particularly involved in international projects, particularly in the automotive sector, in sales, but also in after sales. And now it's your turn, John.
Yeah, good morning or good afternoon. My name is John Kufel. I've been with PriceFX for coming up on 2 years now as a solution strategist. And before that, I spent quite a number of years in different industries in the US and in Europe in commercial functions, but also, of course, in revenue growth management and in pricing. So Patrick, back to you.
Okay, so thank you, John. So then we will directly jump into the agenda for our webinar today. So what can you expect today? So today everything is about the topic of pricing, about pricing processes, and of course the software PriceFX. We want to use the example of a bicycle webshop, and we want to show you how you can optimize your prices, how you can increase your profit, and of course how all this can be done within PriceFX. And we want to show you therefore a little live demo. So first of all, we want to give you a short insight into the topic of pricing and also how an ideal pricing process can look like, followed by different stages of pricing. And then we want to directly jump into our little example and how an advanced pricing process can look like. Finally, we also want to give you then a little outlook into the topic of artificial intelligence in the context of pricing. So this brings us to the main topic of today's webinar, so the topic of pricing and why is pricing so important. So pricing is one of the central levers when it comes to increasing profit. So based of our experience, a price increase of only 1% leads to an average profit increase of about 9%. And that is exactly why it is so important to find the optimal price point for your products and also for your services. At the same time, however, a lot of companies have only little capacity for pricing, and still the manual effort is often very high. And also, a lot of times not all relevant aspects are considered. So, for example, pricing is only based on, for example, costs or only on the competition. And this is exactly why we want to show you today how you can optimize your pricing with just little manual effort, and also how you can align it optimally to your market and also to the circumstances. So now we know about the importance of pricing and why pricing is that important. But the basis for very good and advanced pricing is to have a good pricing process. Why should I use a pricing process? So if you're doing pricing in a systematic process, you can just guarantee to have the optimal price position for your product or for your service at every time because you're doing it continuously and you are considering all aspects. So how does this pricing process look like? So basically a pricing process has 4 steps. So you have the strategy, the calculation, the implementation, and also the monitoring phase. So in the first step, in the strategy phase, you have to ask yourself, where do you want to position yourself? What is your target? And therefore you have to derive the pricing strategy. In the second phase of calculation, the question is, how do you calculate your prices in line with the pricing strategy you defined in the step before? So just to give you a very, very simple example, if your strategy is to be always to have the cheapest price, you, for example, can do a calculation logic, competition price minus 5%. So in the third phase of the implementation, then you have to bring the pricing strategy and also the new prices into the market. And of course, you also have to think about how can the price adjustments and the new prices communicated to the market and also to the customers. So in the last phase of monitoring, you of course have to track your prices and the price adjustments. And most important, of course, the effects and also the success of these adjustments. So based on the results and what has been working like you expected and what not, then you start again with the strategy phase, recalculate your prices, implementing them, and monitoring them again. So now you see, or now you know, so you got some information, how does pricing and pricing process look like? And in the next step, we now want to give you some insights into different stages of pricing and also into our specific use case.
Okay, so thanks, Verena, for giving us some insight to an ideal pricing process. And now I would like to have a bit further, let's say, detail discussion, especially about the second phase of the process, the price calculation. And this brings us, as Verena already mentioned, to the stages of pricing. So you can actually see that we have 4 different stages. And the more you go to the right on the slide, the more advanced the stage of pricing is. So let's start here on the left side, and I can give you a bit more of a description what we're talking about here. So probably the most used approach is shown here on the left as stage 1. It's the cost plus approach. Here you actually have a basis, and the basis is your purchase cost. And based on that, you just apply a pricing factor to calculate your prices. A more advanced pricing would also consider the competition. And that's why the second stage here of pricing is called competitor-oriented pricing. An even further developed pricing approach is the value-based pricing approach. And here you focus on the willingness of your customers, or the willingness to pay of your customers, and you set your prices accordingly. And as the fourth stage of pricing, which is probably the most advanced stage of pricing, is the AI stage of pricing. And here you really focus on an automation and a dynamization of your pricing. So this is really an advanced approach, but also a very modern and very, let's say, cool approach that really helps you to boost your pricing and your business further. So just as an, let's say, little introduction, we now saw the different stages of pricing. And this brings us also to our next question, because this is more or less connected with these stages. So the next slide shows the 3C pricing. And we here at Star, we always use the 3C pricing, also in connection with these different stages we just saw. But before we go a bit deeper into the connection, we just stay here on our 3C slide. So what does 3C stand for? So 3C stands for customer, company, and competition. And the 3C model offers us, or also our customers, the possibility to consider all relevant dimensions that can be relevant for your pricing and the price optimization. This means that, for example, I can consider product characteristics or costs on the company side, but also the willingness to pay and different customer groups and their demand on the customer side. And in addition, the third C is the competition part. Here I can also consider the competitor prices. So the basic approach here, the 3C approach, is that you just consider all influencing factors and make sure that you have a holistic price positioning in the end. And this is really cool to make sure that you use also the market and the characteristics of all customers you have and the competition and their price setting in an optimal way. So as mentioned earlier, we always have a connection between the different stages and the 3C when we do pricing projects. And this brings us actually to our next slide, which is a theoretical pricing example we want to show you here in our webinar today. And this one is also the basis for our live demo, because what I will teach you in a second or show you in detail will also be reflected then in our live demo within PriceFX. But let's jump to the next slide. Here you can already see from the headline, we are focusing on the value-based pricing approach. And as mentioned, in a connection with the C3 pricing. So I will just give you the possibility to see my mouse here. Great. So we remember the 3 C's of our 3C approach. So customer, competition, and company. And now we bring that in connection with a value-based pricing approach. So earlier I mentioned that the value-based pricing approach is an approach where you focus on the willingness to pay, but also you focus on different characteristics of products and also the different dimensions here from the other influencing factors. So in this case here, we assume that we are a bicycle shop and we sell bikes, parts, clothing, and so on. And when we did a performance analysis, we found out that one of our bikes is not performing as good as other segments or bikes. And therefore, we would like to have a look into the pricing. In this specific example, we focus on a specific bike. It's the Touring 2000. So you can see it here. It's a touring bike and the model is called Touring 2000. We have here some further, let's say, characteristics of this bike. And yeah, this is the basis. And now we bring everything together. So we have, again, here the 3 C's. And with our specific bike and its characteristics, we now define a value-based approach. So the value-based approach in combination with the 3C pricing is set up like this. So you have your influencing factors, customer, competition, and company. And for each of this influencing factor, you define at least one value driver. Here it is a very simplified example. In reality, you would define not just one, but several different, let's say, value drivers per influencing factor. So one of the 3 C's here. But here it's really simplified to make it easy to understand. So let's say we have here the customer dimension. Here we want to say that the product value is our value driver. For the competition, it's the competitor price, and for the company, it's the demand or the performance. Here it's actually a mix out of customer and company. So it depends whether it's an internal or external perspective. So here we focus on the sales quantities from last year to this year and how it performed, whether it increased or decreased. And from an internal perspective, it's of course a company perspective, how you performed, how your sales quantities developed, But also if you flip it to the other side, it's a customer view, and actually it reflects the demand from all your customers you have. So now that we defined which value drivers we have per influencing factor of the 3C pricing, we can now also think a bit further, how are different characteristics of these different value drivers and how can they look like. So this brings us actually to the gray box here in the middle. So for each of the value drivers, we now define what is possible, which reflects also our product here. In this case, it's the Touring 2000. But here it's also good to know that this example is based on just one product we have in the assortment. But this is only just to give you an example how everything looks. In reality, you would run this kind of approach for all the products you have in your assortment. And based on that approach, you can see whether you have price potentials to increase or decrease the prices. And in the end, not just one product is repositioned, but your whole assortment. So in this example, again, back to the Touring 2000 bike. So let's start here with the customer dimension and the product value. So we have different possibilities how the product value, which is seen from a customer side, is set based on our touring bike. It could be an advanced bike, a basic bike, or a professional bike. So a basic bike is just a beginner bike, so very easy and also a cheaper one. And then there are also bikes which are very professional and bring also more equipment with it, are more high quality, perhaps lighter and stuff like that. And this would be the opposite. And here you can see we have actually 3 possible scores. So it's -1, 0, and +1. And the scores actually indicate a possible price change. So if it would be a basic bike, it's a -1, which indicates probably a price reduction. Advanced is in the middle, so we just say with 0, so the current price. And the professional bike is +1, which indicates it's a more valuable bike and the customers are willing to pay more. And that's why it's also possible to increase the price, probably. But therefore, we also have to consider all the other influencing factors. So in this case, it's an advanced bike. You can also see it here with our characteristics from our bike. So we have a price here. It's an advanced bike. We are 3% more expensive than competition. Here we really compare an apple to apple. So it's the same bike, but just at another location. And we are 3% more expensive with the same bike as the competition. And our sales performance went very positive. So 12% increase from last year to this year. So we just consider the advanced bike now here in our product value dimension. Now we jump to the next one, which is the competition influencing factor. And here we focus on the price of our bike and also the one of the competition, and then we compare it. So already we saw here on the left side, we are 3% more expensive than the competition. So we have also 3 possibilities: a lower price than competition, an equal price, and a higher price. And therefore we also have the possibility to again give one of the 3 scores. Here it's equal and again a 0. But why is it equal? Because here it's like 3%. So the idea is that we always have a bit of a range around 0. In this case, we said it's up to 5% where we stay with the same price, because we think that starting from 5% price gap, the customer is thinking about getting the bike somewhere else. And if it's just 2 or 3%, he will still stay with the same store, and that in that case it would be us. So that's why it's equal, and we again have a 0. If it would be higher than 5%, we would say, okay, we are compared to competition higher in price, and that's why it could be a +1 or a -1. It really depends on the approach you set, and it's also very flexible, and each business needs, of course, its own characteristics and score values. And now we also have the last one, the last influencing factor. It's the customer or company dimension, where we focus on the development of the sales quantities. And it's, again, you can see it here on the left side, a +12% increase in sales. So again, 3 different categories with our 3 possible values. And we have a higher sales quantity than last year, and that's why we have a +1. So now, over all the influencing factors and all the value drivers we defined, we have identified our scoring points. And now it's about to calculate one overall score for our touring bike or product we focus on, to make sure that we can derive also a price recommendation in the end. It would be easy just to sum it up, but you can see it here. All the different value drivers are weighted differently. So the product value comes with 20%, the competitor price and the demand or the performance comes also with 40%. So 40% here twice. And based on the scoring value we had, like -1, 0, or +1, times also the weighting of these influencing factors, we are able to calculate an overall score per product. In this case, the Touring 2000, but as mentioned earlier, this will be done for all the products you have in the assortment. And for each product in the end, you have one total score. And this brings us actually to our last section here on the right side. It's our box where we can derive price recommendations. And in this case, you can see here, it's either indication of an increase or a decrease in price, and it's based on the total score. Here you can see it's actually, again, a range from +0.1 to +0.5 as a total score. And with 0.4, we actually here in the middle of these two range points. And that's why the whole approach gives us the indication of a, let's say, possible increase in price by 4%. So I hope you got a first understanding how a value-based pricing approach in combination with our 3C pricing can give you an approach and a very data-based and market-oriented approach, how you can set initially your prices or optimize them further once you already have implemented prices in the market. So I just go back to my normal mouse and jump further now to the next slide, because now we got the understanding how everything could look like on a theoretical basis. And as mentioned earlier, we would now like to bring that theoretical example also into PriceFX. And this is the situation where I hand over to John, and he will give you an introduction first on a theoretical level what PriceFX as a cloud-based pricing solution can offer you, and then we'll jump directly into the live demo and show you how this theoretical example can be brought to life within PriceFX.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Before we get into the demo, just a couple words about PriceFX. As Patrick said, we're a cloud-based, cloud-native solution, which has quite a few advantages. So number one, we're completely configurable. So everything I'll show you today was discussed and designed by Star Cooperation with us, and completely according to the needs that we had for this model. And it could have looked any different number of ways. We just agreed on a way to do it, agreed on the calculation models, and put it together. The couple other points about advantages of a cloud-based solution like ours is we host the software on our own servers, so it's very secure. It's actually extremely secure. We have no massive installations, so you don't have to have any on-site installations that cause a lot of downtime. We have no updates either with the long downtimes. It's just, again, cloud-based, so it's just updated in the background, and nobody really notices anything until they log in the next time. And then, of course, one of our F words, as we say in our marketing department, is our fast setup. It's very quick to set up. The software itself is based on, on 7 operational modules, as you can see in the diagram, plus master data and an administration module. The charts that you're going to see today are generated in Price Analyzer, which is here on the upper left. And Price Analyzer is where we generate the charts and add it to the dashboards that you can design yourself. It's where we store all historical and transaction data and pricing data. There's really no specification of what kind of data to use. So we adapt our data to your meta structure and organize the data in data marts. and then analyze it. We can enrich the data also with external data like weather data or competition data or whatever data might influence your pricing calculations. And why do we have this kind of a capability? Is obviously we want to look at the past, look at what happened in the past, and to try to better predict the future, and especially using Price Optimizer, which you can see there's another module on the left. We're talking about gaining insight. And Price Optimizer, Patrick and Verena will talk about later on, at least the concept of optimizing prices. It's useful for businesses with many, many, many transactions. And you can micro-segment your sales and set up guidelines to optimize your pricing. Again, as will be discussed later in the call here. And the next bit would be master data. It's not shown on here, but it's extremely important because this is where all the product and customer information and attributes, all the pricing parameters, all the rules, all the calculations, the calculation models, all the parameters, like I said, are stored. Also customer, competitor data, bills of material, and so on and so on. These are really all the building blocks of pricing, and these are all defined by the customer. So whatever the customer uses to define the building as building blocks and building the pricing out of these. And where do we build this? Well, we combine all the building blocks, so to speak, to produce some sort of an outcome. And that outcome can look, obviously, as a price list. And the price list, the classical price lists, are used by a lot of companies, usually published annually, sometimes semi-annually or even quarterly. And a price list is really, as the name says, it's a list of prices and it has validity dates, so start and finish dates. In contrast to that, and actually more popular in today's environment, is our live price grids. Live price grids are, as the name says, they're living documents, and they're used by companies, especially e-commerce and companies with large, rapidly changing assortments. And the key here is that each price has its own validity. So the recalculation of individual prices is triggered by an event. So that event could be timed, so they're maybe calculated every 15 minutes or overnight, every night, or more common is that they're triggered by cost changes or competition price changes, and so on and so on. And the key here is that if you have a company with several thousand SKUs, several thousand items, you don't want to have to recalculate your entire price list and approve and analyze all the prices every day or every 15 minutes. You just want to have those prices be recalculated that have some sort of a change being triggered. And so out of thousands of prices, you'll set up your parameters such that you'll get an alarm for maybe a very tiny percentage of those, and you'll have to manually interject there and approve those manually. And it might be only just a handful of prices, really maybe 5 or 6. Okay, and also within our price builder, we have the capability to make simulations and show the effects by changing the parameters so that you can model the future pricing or even look back and recreate pricing in the past. In Promotion Manager, when we look and continue on the right side, Promotion Manager really defines and manages, is where you define and manage your contracts, your on-invoice discounts. So it's contract creation and negotiation. When we go down to the bottom where we're looking at realizing the prices, we're looking at Quote Configurator, Rebate Manager, and Channel Manager. I'll start with Rebate Manager. That's really much the same as Promotion Manager, but it's for off-invoice rebates. And this is where you build and modify accruals and generate payout records, and where you can interface directly with your ERP system. Quote Configurator is a very commonly used module. And it's where our customers make customer-specific quotes, so for one-offs. Channel Manager, off on the lower right, is really it's a data verification module. So it's where you can use in the retail environment, you would use Channel Manager for verifying your rebates in Rebate Manager and Quote Configurator with using sellout data. Or in the construction business, for example, if you're building, if one of your customers is making has a large project where you want to give specific rebates for that project, you use Channel Manager. So that all said, after you've gone through this whole circle of pricing, you land again at gaining insights into what's been done over the last period. And that's where we're going to start out in this project also, when we're looking at repricing our bicycles. So what we've done in this example is, to date, we've had a cost plus model. And what we want to do now is have a look at where we can see some opportunities, identify some opportunities to get some more profit using price changes. Okay, and changing the pricing model. So the first thing we do is look at the volume, the turnover. Looking at net sales year to date 2019 versus 2020, we can see that the bicycle category is booming, as we all should know. In times of Corona, bicycles seem to be booming, especially in Europe. And components are growing also, accessories and clothing, they're doing fairly well. But if we look at this jump in in bicycles, we can see that it's not just a big jump as far as proportions go, but this is actually it's a huge category, 30 million in sales. And we want to use that, leverage that to see if we can get more just by changing the pricing strategies. If we go down a little bit in the bike category, we can see we have three categories: mountain bikes, road bikes, and touring bikes. Patrick talked about the touring bikes a second ago. We can see that mountain bikes are doing very, very well. Road bikes are doing also very well. And touring bikes are growing, but not quite at the same pace as the other two categories. So we might want to take a closer look at what we can change in touring. So let's go down a little bit deeper and find here we have three models, as Patrick already said. The 1000, 2000, and 3000. Touring 1000 is huge, with 6 million in sales this year, and it's growing very well. Touring 2000 is small, it's growing, it has some healthy growth, but it could be better, so we're going to have a look at that. And Touring 3000, which is sort of the low, I don't want to say low end, but maybe a beginner's bike, is actually in decline. So let's now have a look at what's going on here. If we look at a quick margin breakdown chart, a source of gains and loss, we can see the change in margin from 2019 to 2020. We can see we have a large volume gain. And the issue here is that we have, yes, maybe some lost business and some new business, but we have almost nothing in pricing. So the next thing we need to do is try to identify how we can change that by looking at the pricing. And what we're going to do now is go back to these building blocks that I talked about earlier, the pricing parameters that Patrick showed in his chart or in his slide, where we're looking first at the cost plus. This is what the current strategy is now, or the strategy to date. And we can see here that the bikes have a uniform markup of 38%. That's a nice old-fashioned strategy. I take my product at 38% and see what happens. But it's not really very tailored. It's not very, well, elegant, if you will. And we think we can do better using the CCC strategy. As Patrick described in detail, here we have the weighting of company, competition, and customer, and 40, 40, and 20%, as was described earlier. And if we go into the point values, if you don't speak German, you can practice your German here and there, where we look at the company equivalent, negative, and positive performance, and that's weighted or given a point value of -1 to +1. The competition, whether it's cheaper, the same price, or more expensive, also from negative to +1, and then gets weighted by the customer category weighting. If we look at the recommended prices, again, without going into detail, we can see that the boundaries range from -1 to +1, as Patrick described in detail, and these will result in price changes from a price decrease of 8% to a price increase of 8%. So with all that in mind, we have these rules running in the background, and we have here our three products, our Touring 1, 2, and 3000, and we have costs per product per unit. These are not going to change no matter what the volume is. We have our current pricing, the active price. We have the active gross profit per unit, and we have then the active price margin of 28%. If we look at the prices that are available to us, we can see the three that are out there. We have the CCC model, the 3Cs. We have the cost plus that's being used right now, and we have a recommended retail price that, with 2,400 is often the case. The recommended retail price is a little bit higher than the reality. So let's go to our price selector, and here we choose the 3C model. And then, just starting with Touring 1000, we can, with one click, have a look at all of the strategy details, where we can see the product name, obviously, the cost, the current price. Then we can see the category with the rating and the weight, which gives us the building blocks for the price calculation. And then we look at the competitor price and the difference, and whether it's more expensive, less percents. And then we also get, as Patrick described, the point total, which in this case is 1, and the overall price change from our most expensive model was going to be 8%. We could go through the same details for the other ones, especially looking at 2000. We can see that Patrick described how we get to 4%, which we can see here. And if I go off onto the right a little bit, we can see that the 8% price increase will result in a gross profit per bicycle now of not 500 something, but 727 euro for our Touring 1000. For a mid-range bike, this will go up to 328 euro, 329. And then the Touring is going to decrease actually to 124. So it's a margin of margins of 33, 30, and 21%. So these have been changed from 28%. Now, the key thing to recognize here, and this is important for every price negotiation for every salesperson, and especially for pricing departments. So we're all pricing professionals, and it's critical for us to explain to the organization, especially the sales organization, that 8% increase on the Touring 1000 is going to generate 29% more gross profit per unit. And using the advanced CCC model that we're talking about throughout here, we're not expecting much or any loss in the unit sales. So we should be able to generate quite a lot of profit on here. We should be able to generate, using the last year's volume and trying to calculate the absolute price effects, we should generate 420-some thousand euro just on that one product by changing the price. And looking at the 2000 model, it's a mid-range model, so the price aggressiveness is not going to be as high. Looking at the 3Cs again, we're only going to raise 4%, but that 4% is going to generate 15% more gross profit. And we should generate, just on that model, additional profit of 28,000. And then the Touring 3000, which is our beginner's model, we're actually lowering the price. And our margin, of course, then will drop to 21%. And actually, on a gross profit per unit basis, we're going to lose 29% gross profit per bicycle. But because this is a very price-sensitive segment, we expect to pick up more in volume. We'll pick up more profit in volume than we're losing on price effects. So overall, just pure price effects over 400,000 euro, that's pretty powerful based on just using a rather simplified view of the world and just changing a few effects. Okay, so again, the key message here is setting up some rules, automating the pricing, using a well thought out pricing strategy, in this case the 3C model, and then overall increasing the profits. Okay, with that in mind, I'll hand back to the Star Cooperation team.
Perfect. So John, thank you very much for the demo. I think it was very interesting to see how easy it is to work with PriceFX. And if we just remember what we learned so far in the webinars, we started with the pricing process, where we have different phases, starting from analyzing, creating transparency, then the calculation of the prices, the implementation, also the monitoring again. I think just by going through the live demo, we could see that PriceFX gives us really the possibility to really bring in the complete pricing process into the software and make it available in a digital way and also an organized way. So everyone who's working in pricing can really see the advantage of PriceFX and how easy it is. So just by clicking some buttons, you can identify segments which are not performing that well. And then if you change or you want to change your prices, you can just use a drop down. There are already recommendations available. So I really like it. It's really easy to use, and I hope all the participants got a first feeling how PriceFX looks like and how easy it is to actually use it on a daily basis then. Great. So now that we knew a bit more about PriceFX and also saw how our theoretical example brought to life within the software, I would like now to jump further to the next slide. So just let us go back to the slides here. So just to the next slide. Perfect. So now I would like to show you an overview of a selection of possible pricing measures to also focus on when it comes to pricing. So we at Star, we always divide possible approaches in 3 categories. So the basic category, the strategy, and the optimization category. And I will just give you 1 or 2 examples out of all these 3 categories. So when we talk about basics, we're talking about, for example, an identification of the willingness to pay via surveys or crawling competitor prices, for example, and the combination out of these. Or we're talking about discount or bonus models, or a differentiation of pricing according to life cycles or model ranges. When we focus on a more strategic level in pricing, for example, the value-based pricing, we could also already see here in our webinar today is a big topic, but also the pricing strategy. And especially when you focus on a pricing strategy, we focus on the development of all the, let's say, influencing factors. You remember the 3C approach: company, customer, competition. Everything changes over the years, and we focus on the development of these influencing factors over the next years. And we ask ourselves and also provide value to our customers and give recommendations how they should adjust their pricing accordingly to these developments. And the last category is the optimization category. And within here, we're talking about dynamic pricing, or pricing with the help of guided analytics and artificial intelligence. And this brings us actually to our last slide for today, where we give a bit of an outlook when it comes to pricing with the help of AI. So what you can see here on the slide is an overview what AI can bring you and how it can support you in your business. And I can definitely say that AI pricing is a further refinement of your pricing. So based on your already solid pricing, AI-based pricing can help you to identify price potentials or derive pricing optimizations in an optimized way. So this helps, for example, also to ensure or build the basis for a dynamic pricing. So with the help of guided analytics, recommendation management, or predictive analytics, AI pricing can help you to further differentiate and also personalize the pricing, focusing on different customer segments, different regional markets, or also different channels. So AI pricing is definitely a good tool to boost your pricing and bring your business to the next level. And one thing I also want to point out is that AI pricing, of course, we're talking about dynamic pricing, automation, and all stuff like that. But it's always focusing on an interaction between this pricing approach, supported with AI, but also interaction between the, let's say, AI algorithms and stuff and the pricing experts. Because our goal is not to steal the work and the job from all these pricing experts. We just want to make sure that we can support them in their daily business as much as possible, because the best pricing approach, also based with the help of AI, can only work if some, let's say, experienced pricing experts manage them and also bring in their experience. So it's always about the support of the pricing managers and the interaction between these and the AI machine. So I hope you got a first feeling what AI in pricing can give you or support you in your business. And yeah, we were thinking about also an additional webinar about AI in pricing. So as soon as we have more information, we will also make it available for everyone via LinkedIn or emails or whatever. Yeah, we're already looking forward to the next webinar where we focus purely on AI topics then. So topic-wise, I think we covered everything from our side for today. And just by having a look at the time, I think we have now around 15 minutes left to really take the time and focus on some questions. And yeah, now it's time for the Q&A session. So I give back to Matt, and he will guide us through the questions.
Great. Great. Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, John, for a great presentation so far. Excuse me. Just to kick off with a few submitted questions, maybe this is better for Patrick. For your value-based pricing example you used in the product, is the same approach also possible for services?
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely a good question. Of course, you can use a value-based pricing approach for products and services. So just a couple months back, we also had a project with a customer, and he wanted to launch a service. So he was in preparation of launching the service, and we helped him for making everything available and define also the right price for the service. And there we also use the value-based pricing approach, because not only for products you have specific value drivers and, let's say, aspects or characteristics of a product, or in this case a service, which bring value to the customer. So it's definitely possible to also use such an approach to for services.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. Another question. Is it possible to handle different currencies within PriceFX?
Yeah, I'll pick this one up. This is actually easy. It's an easy question. We are a German company. We were founded in Germany. We're in the international environment. We have offices in Prague, a very large think tank, if you will. Our main operations are in Prague. We have a large office in Chicago, and another office in Australia. So we're in the international environment. We're born and raised, so to speak, in a multinational area, or if you will. And of course, I mean, we have to have, any international company is going to have different foreign exchange rates, not just the exchange rate between the dollar and the euro, but also you'll need planning rates, you'll need spot rates, you'll need the current rates, weighted averages, and so on and so on. So these are really no problem at all. This is the environment we grew up in.
Great. Thank you, John. Moving on. What are the typical challenges when you work with customers surrounding, pricing solutions, strategy, and software? Patrick, if you want to weigh on that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. A good question, actually. Challenges, of course, differ from customer to customer. But if I think of it, I can probably give one or two examples what typical challenges could be. So the one thing is definitely the commitment to work on the project and change the pricing on a customer side. And on the other hand, it's also we face sometimes problems with the provision of data and the usage of data from the customer side. So sometimes when we start a project, we have the feeling that the customers are not really, let's say, committed to the project. And the funny thing is, once we start out with the customers and we have the first workshops and we show them our approaches and what could be possible also for their business, and we also share some best practices examples from other projects, and they really warm up. So sometimes commitment is not really there, but once we start working with them, we really get the feeling that they get interested, they get motivated. And I think if I remember just the projects we did over the last years, I think in the end all projects went successfully, even though the commitment at the beginning was not there. But as mentioned, once we worked with them together, they really warmed up and everything went great. And now they're really, let's say, happy about, for example, PriceFX as a solution, or just the optimization. And this is the one thing. And the other thing is the problems with the provision or the usage of data from the customer side. So I think we all know it. There's always a lot of systems and data available, but no one really knows what is really there and also possible to use. And as we are working very data driven, what you could also see in our 3C and value-based pricing approach, we always use data to make sure that we can identify price potentials and make sure that we can derive price optimizations. And it's sometimes difficult that they provide us the data or tell us what's possible with the data. But we can also show them what is really possible, and we help them to organize their data, bring it together, and let's say bring also the value of the data to life. And especially with our data analytics and AI experience, this is also a good thing that we can help our customers there to really make each of the projects to a success in the end.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. Can price effects be used in the FMCG business?
Yeah, I'll also field this question. Yeah, the answer is absolutely yes. We all know that FMCG has its own issues. It's not the same as pricing chemicals or discrete manufacturing, but I'm coming personally from the FMCG industry myself, and one of the things that got me excited about the company to begin with was the ability of price effects to really calculate and monitor the whole pricing process from end to end. So from a global price list through a local price list, and then taking off and monitoring and calculating the rebates and the discounts, and getting to a pocket price. And then also the ability to combine external data so that you can spot leakage, so you can identify opportunities for raising the prices without damaging or slowing down the volume of your sales. These are all things that this is tailor-made for us, and especially when you talk about the amazing complexity in the FMCG industry and a lot of the goods that are out there, the products that are out there, especially when you're talking about companies that are, if we look at many of the larger fast-moving consumer goods companies that are sold in every country on earth, basically. I mean, some of these companies are selling their products in over 200 countries. Then you have just an amazing amount of complexity, and that's one of the things we deal with the best is complex environments. So, absolutely, it is the software, the platform is really tailor-made almost to FMCG or CPG producers. So if you have any questions on this area, just contact me, and I can give you some more information or a demo on it.
Great. Thank you, John. One last question regarding the cloud. Are there any issues or concerns when dealing with customers and, providing their data in the cloud?
Yes, this is often a concern when we're in the scoping sessions, or even before we get to scoping, that some companies have some concerns about being cloud native, but we have excellent security. I mean, it's outstanding. We have our chief code monkey, Christian Tratz, who's one of the founders, can talk about this in great detail. But it's important for our customers to remember that we're not based in the Amazon cloud. We have our own machinery that we have out there in different locations, and it's our servers, so it's extremely safe and secure.
Great, thank you, John. And I think that's a wrap up for the questions. So with that, I'd like to end this session. I hope you all gained the value that you attended this session to hear about. For any additional questions, if you're interested in a demo or to discuss any pricing strategies, please feel free to reach out to myself or John of PriceFX and Patrick and Brenner of Star Cooperation. I just want to thank you again to our valued partner, Star Cooperation, for joining today's webinar and sharing their valuable insight, and John for giving us a live demo into that bicycle scenario. So that was really great. So just wanted to thank everyone once more, and hope everyone has a great day and stays healthy and safe. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.